Congratulations! By some freakish accident of fate, warp anomaly, or particularly malicious prank by a higher power, you've found yourself in the Imperium of Man, the largest, most powerful, and unquestionably worst human civilization in history. It is a vast empire of over 1,000,000 worlds, ruled by a corpse, run by lunatics, and powered by an unceasing torrent of bureaucratic bloodshed and industrial agony. It is both humanity's fortress and its prison, defending the species from extinction while grinding most of it into dust. Let's be very clear about your situation. You are not a space marine. You are not a rogue trader. You are not even a sanctioned psyker. You are a nobody. No implants, no training, no rank, no allies. You're a baseline human dropped into a society where being ordinary is a death sentence written in administratum ink. Your new full-time job is not dying. And believe me, it's going to be overtime every day. This guide is not here to help you rise through the ranks or find your destiny. That kind of thinking is how people end up vaporized by orbital cannon fire for trespassing in the wrong shrine district. No, this guide is about survival, keeping your head down, avoiding the worst fates, and becoming just useful enough to be overlooked. It's not about winning. It's about outlasting the first few waves of idiotic death so you can die later, and more comfortably. Over the course of this manual, we'll walk you through how Imperial society is structured and what role you might fake your way into, the kinds of environments you'll encounter, and how to survive everything from hive slums to agri-world famines, the psychological tools you'll need from suppressing curiosity to mimicking blind faith with Oscar-worthy conviction. This is a galaxy where your toaster might denounce you for heresy. But don't panic, or do panic. Just make sure it looks like a sanctioned religious seizure. Either way, this guide is your best chance at surviving long enough to realize just how bad things can really get. Ready to learn how to vanish in plain sight? Good. Step 1. Figure out where the screaming is coming from and walk in the other direction. Your first few hours in the Imperium will define the rest of your, likely short, life. If you've just dropped through a portal or emerged from some warp-induced displacement, panic is a luxury you can't afford. Your new reality demands immediate calculated action. The first step is assessment. Because whether you're standing on scorched soil or choking on recycled air, one thing's certain. This place wants you dead. Not all Imperial worlds are created equal. Some are just slower methods of execution. Quickly identify what kind of planet you've landed on. Here's a rough breakdown. Hive Worlds have towering cities packed with billions. Sky is a myth. Expect heavy smog, sirens, and the smell of sweat, oil, and decay. Life here is cheap. You might survive by vanishing into the masses. Forge Worlds are characterized by endless factories, sacred machinery, and the ever-watchful eyes of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Touch the wrong cog, and you'll be lobotomized for tech heresy. Don't talk, don't ask questions, just look busy. Agri-worlds have vast plains or hostile wildernesses devoted to food production. Think medieval serfdom with laser guns. You'll probably be conscripted as a laborer if you don't stand out. On shrine worlds, everything smells like incense and judgment. Religion isn't just law, it's oxygen. Recite some prayers, look pious, and never say anything that could be mistaken for individual thought. Feudal and feral worlds are low-tech, tribal, or pseudo-medieval societies. If you're lucky, you'll be mistaken for a village idiot. If you're unlucky, you'll be declared a witch. Wherever you are, act like you've been there your whole life. If you can't figure it out immediately, look for signs. Architecture, language, clothing, tech level. Observe first, act second. Do you look like everyone else? If not, you have a problem. Tattoos, odd hairstyles, non-standard teeth. Any of these can get you flagged as a heretic. Same with your dialect. If you speak fluent modern English, your best hope is to try to pass that as the low Gothic dialect of some lost world. Your best cover story is usually the lost pilgrim. Vague faith, confused expression, and silence are assets here. Pilgrims are everywhere, often disoriented, and usually left alone long enough to find a place to hide. Just keep your head bowed and mutter something about the Emperor's light. You can also pretend to be a refugee from a world consumed by tyrannids, which is probably a common backstory anyway. Clothing is identity. You need to stop looking like a problem and start looking like a nobody. That means filthy robes, a tattered tunic, or any uniform that doesn't look too clean or too important. Avoid items with sigils or unit markings unless you know what they mean. The wrong logo can get you executed for impersonation. Currency will be hard to come by initially, but scrip, tokens, or even useful junk like metal scrap can go far in the right hands. More important is cover, a place to sleep, eat, and not be noticed. This might mean joining a local worker gang, squatting in a shrine alcove, or following a crowd until you're part of it. Your first rule of survival is Imperial attention is fatal. Don't attract the Arbites. Don't draw the interest of a priest, a noble, or a Mechanicus adept. Anyone in power can ruin your life just by noticing you exist. Forget ambition. Forget curiosity. You're not here to change the world. You're here to pass through it like a shadow. In the Imperium, the invisible man survives longest. Your goal is not to be special. It's to be the 15th face in the crowd, the one no one remembers, the person who always nods and never speaks, until you find shelter, a role, and a rhythm. Disappear. Surviving the Imperium isn't just about avoiding bullets, starvation, or industrial accidents. It's about understanding your place, and more importantly, staying in it. The Imperium is a civilization stitched together by obedience, enforced ignorance, and social stratification so extreme it makes feudalism look progressive. If you don't know where you stand, someone will put you in your place, and the tools they use will likely involve blunt force and a purity seal. You, as a disconnected outsider, have no rank, no lineage, and no license to exist. That puts you somewhere beneath a sumprat and just slightly above heresy, a very dangerous position. The first step to survival is to internalize a painful truth. You are no one. You are not special. You do not matter. And that is the key to staying alive. The Imperium's social structure is a pyramid built out of suffering. At the top, far above the atmosphere, live the planetary governors, their noble houses, and the occasional visiting inquisitor. You will never see them. You do not want to see them. The further down you go, the more crowded it gets. Administrative clergy, mid-tier officers, overseers, enforcers, sanctioned psychers, and finally, pressed flat at the bottom, is everyone else. The laborers, serfs, clerks, and millions of barely differentiated bodies that keep the wheels turning. You are trying to disappear into that final tier. You're not looking for opportunity. You're looking for anonymity. Blending in with the underclasses means mimicking their routines and respecting their invisible codes. If the people around you never make eye contact, neither should you. If everyone uses specific gestures to greet a foreman or a priest, copy them exactly. Mimicry is safety. Observation is survival. Watch how people move. Listen to how they speak to superiors. Study the cadence of obedience. Authority figures in the Imperium are sacred, literal or otherwise. You don't address them casually, and you certainly don't contradict them. Even asking questions can be seen as a challenge to hierarchy, which in this society is synonymous with treason. If someone wears a symbol you don't recognize, especially if it's covered in skulls or radiates light you can't explain, bow your head and say nothing. If they speak to you, respond humbly. If they order you to follow, do so without hesitation and with prayers on your lips. The average citizen may not be educated, but they know exactly how to appear loyal, and you should learn to do the same. The most dangerous mistake you can make isn't disrespecting power, it's being noticed. There's no margin for error when it comes to heresy, and heresy includes everything from reading a book you're not sanctioned to understand, to speaking out of turn, to asking what the Mechanicus actually worships. Curiosity kills more citizens than enemy fire. Knowledge is often restricted by class, vocation, or genetic purity. You're better off learning to shut up and nod. Silence can be holy. It can also be the only thing that keeps your brain inside your skull. The Imperium isn't built for human dignity. It's built for obedience and faith, often in that order. If you're going to survive, you'll need to shed any modern concept of individualism or autonomy. Embrace routine, embrace servility, blend into the mass, and never give a reason for anyone in a uniform to remember your face. At some point, you're going to have to work. The Imperium does not tolerate idleness unless you are a noble, and you are not. Every breath you take is a debt you owe the Emperor, and the payment is labor. Your goal, however, is not advancement. It's not respect or even dignity. Your goal is survivability. To find the narrowest career path between total obscurity and immediate execution. The first and most common route is menial labor. It's everywhere, lifting crates, processing meat, cleaning hive sludge, tightening bolts on conveyor belts that run for kilometers. If you can keep your head down, follow orders without question, and tolerate the stench of unwashed humanity, you might last. The job is physically grueling but relatively straightforward until a machine malfunctions, or you're blamed for someone else's mistake, or you catch a lung rot that makes you non-productive. In that case, you're either euthanized, drafted, or repurposed, sometimes all three. Slightly better, and only slightly, is clerical work in the administratum. Think of this as trading physical danger for psychological erosion. You'll drown in paperwork, work shifts measured in days, and deal with directives so convoluted they require their own appendices to explain. But if you can read, write, and resist the urge to scream, it's one of the few places where the quiet and unremarkable can survive for decades. Just be careful, make too many mistakes, and you'll find yourself reassigned to a penal ledger unit, and no one retires from there. There's also the ecclesiarchy, the religious engine of the Imperium. Joining the faith has its own risks, mostly involving fire, but the devout are often left alone if they're loud enough in their piety and quiet enough in everything else. Becoming a lay preacher, shrine cleaner, or relic scribe can offer protection, especially if you're surrounded by people who fear divine punishment more than they fear dying in a factory collapse. Just don't try to fake devotion unless you're very, very convincing. The Ministorum tests faith with knives. Then there's the Imperial Guard. And let's be clear, do not join the Guard. Conscription is a death sentence you walk into on your feet. If the officers don't kill you with incompetence, the enemy will kill you with weapons you can't even comprehend. If you somehow survive long enough to get promoted, they'll send you somewhere worse. If you're unlucky, you'll survive long enough to be used as bait. It is the galaxy's largest meat grinder, and the only reason to ever sign up is if your other option is servitorization, which, ironically, you may end up with anyway. If you've managed to prove yourself literate, semi-educated, and moderately sane, you might find work as an adept or scribe. These roles vary from cataloging archival records to transcribing sermons to organizing shipments of LHO sticks. They require focus, an ability to survive boredom, and a willingness to pretend you didn't see the wrong dates on that requisition form. This career path carries less immediate risk, but more long-term paranoia. Competence is rewarded with more responsibility, and with it, more chances to commit an accidental administrative heresy. Lastly, you must always be aware of the servitor conversion risk. In the Imperium, your body is Imperial property. If you become injured, ill, or deemed inefficient, you may be repurposed. The Mechanicus loves fresh meat for its cybernetic slave workforce. All it takes is one false medical report or a poorly timed fainting spell, and you'll wake up with half your brain missing and a drill arm screaming prayers in binaric. So do your best to avoid appearing weak, broken, or idle. There is no safe path. There is only a slow path, a painful path, or a final path. Choose carefully, lie convincingly, and whatever you do, keep looking useful. In the Imperium, that's as close to job security as you'll ever get. Death in the Imperium is not rare. It's not even remarkable. It's part of the daily routine, expected, accepted, and largely ignored unless it slows production. If you want to survive, you must treat death the way the Imperium does, as an ever-present consequence for being noticed. There are 3 categories of lethal threat you must contend with at all times: health, heresy, and happenstance. Let's start with health, or more accurately, the absolute lack of it. The Imperium is a biologically hostile place. In a hive city, the air is more pollutant than oxygen, laced with industrial soot, human decay, and the microscopic leftovers of the last 7 pandemics. Medical care exists, but it's either reserved for the upper class or provided by half-trained medicae who sterilize tools with recycled promethium. Even simple infections can be fatal if you can't hide the symptoms. On Forge Worlds, the atmosphere is often chemically reactive, requiring respirators, eye shielding, and in many cases, skin grafts just to work a shift. And on Void ships, you'll be exposed to radiation bursts, zero-G embolisms, or vacuum decompression just because someone misread a valve schematic written in High Gothic. Then comes heresy. The greatest threat to your survival may not be disease, but saying the wrong thing in earshot of the wrong person. In the Imperium, curiosity is often considered treason, and even honest questions can be interpreted as sedition. Never mention Xenos unless you're denouncing them. Never talk about the warp unless you're reciting sanctioned scripture. Never ask how a system works, why a decision was made, or what the Emperor's original intentions might have been. The wrong words can land you in front of an inquisitor. Or worse, your co-workers might report you out of fear they'll be accused next. Silence is safety. Recitation is armor. Memorize a few approved prayers and use them liberally. Pretending to be stupid is often smarter than revealing what you actually know. As for accidents, they are ubiquitous. The Imperium runs on broken infrastructure, outdated schematics, and holy maintenance rituals no one understands. Machinery malfunctions often, and when it does, it takes limbs, lives, and occasionally entire workforces with it. If your equipment starts making a new sound, assume it's about to kill someone. If a colleague disappears behind a cogitator bank and doesn't come out, Don't ask questions. You don't want to be the second disappearance. Executions, too, are common and capricious. Sometimes they happen to make an example. Sometimes they're ordered due to clerical error. Sometimes they're arbitrary. Don't be memorable. Don't be noticed. If someone starts shouting about heresy or inefficiency, you should already be backing away. There are 3 rules that will save your life more often than armor or weapons. Stay clean. Stay quiet. Stay faithful. Hygiene isn't about comfort. It's about not looking diseased. Filth invites suspicion. Suspicion invites investigation, and that ends poorly. Silence is a good survival tactic. Don't gossip, don't speculate, and don't speak unless spoken to. And finally, perform your faith. You don't have to believe it. You just have to believe that someone else will report you if you don't act like you do. Death in the Imperium isn't waiting. It's already here, baked into every wall, every hallway, every cogitator, and rebreather. You're just trying to stay one step ahead of it, without anyone noticing you're running. If you've made it this far, into this guide and into the Imperium, you already understand the most important rule. Survival doesn't guarantee success. It doesn't even guarantee safety. You could do everything right. Blend in, obey orders, pray loudly, keep your head down, and still be atomized because your factory block failed an efficiency quota, or a Psyker 5 sectors over sneezed too hard and tore open a rift to the warp. Survival in the Imperium has never been about justice. It's barely about logic. What this guide has tried to offer isn't hope, it's orientation. A cold understanding of the dangers and the narrow ledges you might cling to. For every 1,000 crushed by bureaucracy, disease, cult uprisings, and the casual sadism of authority, a few manage to slip between the cracks. They find roles that are dull enough to be beneath punishment, useful enough to be spared, and quiet enough to go unnoticed. Some even climb, very carefully. Most simply endure, year after year, learning to fake belief and suppress thought. Because that's what survival in the Imperium means. Not strength, not heroism, just persistence, silence, predictability, faith, or the mask of it. Every day not being dissected by a magos, denounced by a co-worker, or turned into a servitor is a victory. And that's your real job now, treating survival like work, like a shift that never ends. Remember, survival isn't about hope. It's about understanding the system just well enough to get lost in it. And that's it for today. Remember to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. This one was really fun to make, but also very tiring. I was thinking about making something similar for the other factions too, like the Orcs or the Drukhari, but I guess that depends entirely on how well this video performs. If you want me to do other similar projects, leave a comment below. Also, I want you people to talk about strategies and ideas of how you would survive in the Imperium. Leave your thoughts below, and let's have a discussion about it. I'll see you people in the next video. Have a good one.